The sun was setting over Dusty Creek Ranch, painting the wide fields in amber and fire. The wind carried the smell of hay and rain, the kind that came only once every few months in this forgotten corner of the West. Inside the old barn stood Luke Carson, a quiet man, broad-shouldered, worn hat pulled low, eyes that had seen too many storms. For years he had lived alone with his horses and silence, carrying the weight of memories he never spoke of. People in town said Luke's heart had turned to stone the day his brother died in that canyon fire. They were wrong. His heart hadn't turned to stone, it had turned to glass, cracked but still somehow whole, waiting for one more hit to finally shatter. That hit came in the form of a woman stumbling through the twilight, her clothes torn, her face pale as moonlight. Luke heard the dogs barking first, then the weak sound of someone calling for help. He dropped the reins, pushed open the barn door, and saw her, a stranger, trembling, blood on her arm, dust in her hair, eyes filled with a fear that didn't belong to this peaceful land. She could barely stand. He caught her before she fell. "You're safe," he said, voice low like thunder behind the hills. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you here?" But her lips shook as she whispered, "Please, just make it quick. I can't take more." Those words cut through him deeper than any knife. They were words of surrender, and Luke Carson was a man who couldn't watch someone give up on life. He carried her inside, laid her on the old couch near the fireplace, and tried to clean the wound on her arm. She flinched each time he touched her, eyes darting to the door like she expected someone to burst in any second. "You got a name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then said, "Clara." Her voice was small, fragile, like it hadn't been used in a long time. Luke gave her water, tore a strip from his own shirt to wrap her wound, and let the fire's warmth fill the silence between them. Outside, the rain began to fall, slow, steady, merciful. Inside, the woman who'd just begged for death tried to remember what hope even felt like. Over the next few days, Clara stayed on the ranch. Luke didn't ask questions. He could tell she wasn't ready to answer them. She helped feed the horses, swept the porch, and sat quietly watching the horizon as if the past might ride back over it any moment. Luke noticed the way she jumped at loud noises, the way she never looked at her own reflection in the window. One night, while they were sitting by the fire, she finally spoke. "He used to say he loved me," she whispered. "Then he'd drink, and everything would turn dark. I ran last night. I didn't even take shoes. Just ran." Luke's jaw tightened. He'd seen men like that before, men who broke what they claimed to love. He wanted to go find the bastard and end it. But when he looked at Clara's face, he knew what she needed wasn't revenge. It was peace. "Out here," Luke said quietly, "the past can't follow you unless you invite it." She smiled for the first time, faint but real. "Maybe," she said, "but it still haunts your dreams." He looked into the fire. "Yeah, it does. But dreams fade, if you let the morning in." The morning did come, a golden one that washed the land clean after the storm. Luke taught her to saddle a horse. She laughed when the mare snorted and almost threw her off. And for a second, the ranch sounded alive again. The neighbors started whispering that Luke Carson was changing, that maybe the ghost who haunted the ranch had finally found something worth living for. Luke didn't deny it. He started to believe it himself, until the past came knocking. It was near sundown when a black truck rolled up the dirt road. Clara froze at the sound. Luke saw her face pale. "It's him," she whispered. The man who stepped out was tall, heavy, mean-eyed, with whiskey written all over his grin. "You think you can hide from me, Clara?" He barked. Luke stepped forward, calm but firm. "You best turn that truck around, friend." The man laughed. "Friend? You don't know who you're talking to." He reached for the gun on his hip. And that's when Luke moved faster than lightning. The sound of the shot echoed through the hills, but it wasn't Luke who fell. The man dropped to his knees, clutching his shoulder. Luke's voice was cold steel. "You ain't dying today. You're going to live, and remember that this ranch is the line you don't cross again." Sheriff came an hour later, took the man away, wrote it down as self-defense. But Clara sat on the porch steps shaking, tears running down her cheeks. "You should have just let him end it," she said. "Maybe it would have been easier." Luke knelt beside her. his hand gentle on her shoulder. Maybe easy ain't what we're meant for, he said. Maybe we're meant for something harder, like living. You think dying takes courage? Try waking up every morning and facing yourself. That's real courage. She looked at him, broken but breathing, and in that look was the faintest spark of life. Luke stood, looking out at the horizon. You stay here as long as you need. The world's cruel, but this land's still honest. It'll give back what you give it. Weeks turned into months. The ranch healed as they healed. Clara planted flowers near the barn. Luke fixed the fence he'd been ignoring for years. Sometimes she'd hum old songs while he worked, and he'd feel something stir inside him. Something he thought had died with his brother. One evening, as the sun burned red over the hills, Clara handed him a small locket. I want you to have this, she said. Inside was a picture of a little girl. My daughter, she whispered. She didn't make it. Maybe that's why I wanted it all to end. Luke closed the locket carefully. Then live for her, he said. She'd want that. And for the first time since she'd come. Clara didn't cry when the night fell. But the ranch had one more storm left to give. A wildfire broke out in the canyon. Dry wind, lightning, and fate all striking together. Flames raced toward the fields. Luke and Clara worked side by side, trying to drive the horses to safety. Smoke choked the air, the sky turned red. At the fence line, a frightened colt broke free and bolted straight toward the fire. Luke didn't think, he just ran. Clara screamed his name, but he vanished into the smoke. Minutes felt like hours. When he finally stumbled back, coughing, carrying the trembling colt, his shirt burned, she ran to him and held him like she'd never let go. You could have died, she cried. Luke smiled faintly through the soot. You said you can't take more, remember? Well, maybe now you can, because you just watched someone run into fire to save life, not end it. That night, they sat together under the black sky, the land still smoldering but alive. Clara leaned on his shoulder and whispered, Thank you for not listening when I asked. You to make it quick. Luke's voice broke just a little. No, Clara. Thank you for letting me save something again. By the time dawn came, Dusty Creek Ranch looked different, not perfect, but honest. The kind of place where pain and hope share the same soil. And maybe that's what life is, not the end of suffering, but the courage to keep living through it. So if you're still listening, partner, remember this, somewhere out there, someone's waiting for you to choose life. Just like Luke did for Clara, don't give up too soon. The world's rough, but you're tougher.